Welcome to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynne, and I've dedicated my life to sharing stories of how people make meaning in their work and find purpose in their lives. On this podcast, we're going to talk about some of the great ideas and activities people do every day to make the world a better place and provide inspiration for others. So much of the meaning we find comes from interacting with great people, developing relationships that are mutually beneficial, and doing work that inspires everyone. I hope you'll be inspired by the people you meet here. We all need to find a way to make meaning in the mundane. Welcome back to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynne, and today I'm speaking with Marianne Simon, a Los Angeles-based artist who has spent 20 years training and working as an actress and a director and writing for even longer than that. She has a degree in theater from San Francisco State and trained with the American Conservatory Theater from the age of 8. Though she has worked in video and film, there's nothing quite like the thrill of a live performance. We're speaking to Marianne on the eve of a new show coming out starting this month in June in Los Angeles called Widows Anonymous. Welcome to the Make Meaning podcast, Marianne.
Hello, Lynne.
It's such a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm honored that you reached out and invited me. Thank you.
I've loved seeing your evolution over the years, and there's so much I want to put into this podcast because I want to talk about your show, which I'm really excited to hear about. But I also want to meander a little bit into your landscape work and your work with climate change and sustainability, and then we have to talk about those emotions and your journey through loss and grieving and coming out the other side. So we have a tall order today in this podcast, let me tell you. But let's start with sort of the background. Tell me a little bit about how you got into writing and performing and how the two came together.
Wow, so you spoke to that a little bit in the bio. You know, I grew up in a family of artists. Most parents want their kids to be lawyers and doctors, and my parents wanted us to be artists. So, which is wonderful.
It's so cool. Yeah. I mean, you never hear that from a family ever.
No.
Yes, that is so cool.
So even as a little tyke, I was raised in San Francisco, and there's the American Conservatory Theater, which is a world-known theater, and they had just started a program for young people. And I don't know how my parents heard about it, but they did, and they thought it would be good for me. And so off they sent, and I had no clue. This was nothing I had asked for, but somewhere along the line, they thought that it would be good, and it has been. It's really been a place where I've been able to grow and expand and speak to things that are. Oh, go ahead.
So you journal. I know you journal every day, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that because I think you found that your writing, pen to paper journaling as a routine sort of led to this new show. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about your journaling process and why it's so useful for you.
Yes. So I've been journaling for years and years. I have like buckets of journals, and it's almost an addiction. It's the very first thing I do when I get up in the morning after I start my coffee. And they say a minimum of 3 pages.
Are you talking about the artist's way?
Yeah, so that's why I learned about it some 20-something years ago.
Sure.
And it has, usually, as they say, the first part is just the dump about everything you're complaining about and worried about and all of that.
Sure.
And then somewhere in there, if I keep writing, and it doesn't always happen, but it feels almost like I drop down, for lack of a better, metaphor, to something that feels important. And literally, like I can feel ripples on my skin when I write a phrase that resonates, or I ask a question that feels like it's an opportunity to explore it. And at various times in my life, it has been something that's kept me sane.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded to the loss of my husband a couple of years ago, and this was one of the things that every morning it was just a place to express, explore, vent, everything that was going on.
Almost like a place to make sense of the world, sort of find some clarity and ask those questions. It's interesting because it is a bit like meditation, a daily journaling, because you clear out the clutter and you get to a deeper place. And then I think every great entrepreneur and artist that I've ever met has some sort of practice like this, whether it's journaling or meditating or both, because you sort of get out of the busyness and the clutter of everyday life and you can see more clearly. And I think that's what leads to more success. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right with the busyness and the clutter and other people's voices and what society tell us. And so somehow in that stillness or in that quiet where it's just you and whatever. And sometimes it's bigger than just us. I think sometimes we tap into source or whatever it is that we specifically believe.
Sure.
And it's like you hear the truth of who you are and what's important to you.
It's a hard definition, because I know as a mom of 4 kids, I often define myself. I know, right? I often define myself that way, and I think as they're growing up and preparing to go to college and leave the house, they can't be my definition. And there are so many definitions for ourselves that when one ends or one evolves, how do you know yourself? And it's interesting because you have had this evolution over the past few years. I have to say, I'm watching from afar and reading your beautiful writing in your newsletter that comes out, and seeing your preparation as you're about to launch this show. I think I realized that what strikes me about your writing is how raw and honest it is, but how deeply loving it is. And so in my experience of the stories that our society tells about love, they're fraught, and there's friction, and there's a horrible breakup and drama. You don't hear so many stories of a deep, persistent love. And so the loss that might accompany that, how profound that is as well. Tell me a little bit about, bravely, how you faced the sudden death of your husband.
It sounds so cliche in some ways, but it's literally just one step at a time.
Right.
And the sense that there's no choice, unless I was going to join him in the afterlife. I had to just keep going. And I know in the writing I've used the metaphor that it feels like a dance sometimes, because we're not always moving forward.
Right.
And there are these huge, huge setbacks. And, and I know there were things that were in my life, like a hugely supportive family and friends. And, I went to therapy and I joined a grief support group. So reaching out to outside sources, and then the journaling, and then these long walks along the ocean where I could just sit down on the sand and sob.
Right. Now, you guys were married for 26 years, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
Tell me a little bit. I never had the good fortune to meet him. So tell me a little bit about how you met and what you guys were like together.
Oh, now you are going to make me cry.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's better now. It'll be 2 years next month, actually. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So we met in a very typical Hollywood style. We met in a car accident.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and it was his fault. He broadsided me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then it turned out, crazy kismet. We were both going to the same happy hour event.
Oh my gosh.
And then we get to the top, and he's meeting a friend, and I'm meeting a friend, and they were sitting side by side. So we were now side by side.
Oh
and
my
he
goodness.
was, and I just remember being struck by, he was from Ohio, by just what a really nice, good-looking, but decent man. He could have been such a jerk about it and, tried to pin it on me, and he wasn't.
Right.
And, almost immediately we found things that we had in common, and pretty much one thing led to another. And and then, I never would have, he was an economics person, worked for the city of Santa Monica, and I was an artist and actress. Our worlds would never have collided in any other way.
Sure.
But then, and I think, there's so, and it's not that our marriage was perfect in any, we definitely had our issues and our problems and stuff that, caused some cracking.
Sure.
But, there were basic things that he was so trustworthy and so supportive. And a friend of mine once said that he was the rock so that I could be the butterfly.
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful image.
Yeah. And that's, he was solid and dependable, and he was there for me, and he was there for my daughter, our daughter, and he supported my artist. I think I changed careers 4 times while we were married. And each time it was, if that makes you happy, I will support you.
That's beautiful.
And the same, I respected him so much, and I knew there were things about the way my parents were with each other that I did not want to replicate in my marriage. And, just ways that we communicated and things that we did together. And then also we were independent. So I didn't feel, maybe it was one of the saving graces that I had a life of my own when he passed. That there was something that I could hold to. But he was just this amazing human being, and I feel so blessed that I had him for as long as I did.
It's really stunning when we stop and think about how we assume we have so long, and we just never know. And in a heartbeat, in a blink of an eye, something can change at any age. And it's a totally different story. It's a different path. And I think it's good that we don't live our lives focusing on that what if, but then when confronted with it, it's a whole new reckoning, and it changes your definition of all that you know. It just has to. Yeah. So,
and we
ahead.
become different people.
Yeah. Well, you have to. You have to confront the situation in front of you, even if you don't know how. You really do.
Right.
So you were journaling your way through the emotions and stumbled upon this beautiful show that you are launching in June of this year. So tell me about Widows Anonymous.
Oh my God. So it was the I back up just a little bit, because one of the other factors that kept me evolving and every now and then happy was there was a creative circle that I had joined.
Oh, yeah.
Where, and it was only women, and it was this incredibly beautiful, safe space for artists to bring whatever they needed to bring. And so over the course of the grieving, I would bring these pieces to the workshops.
Okay.
And in the beginning they were just big meltdowns, but eventually, pieces started showing up. And I found myself at the beginning of the year going, and who knows where that comes from, that nudge, that, push. And it was like, I feel like it's time for me to expand beyond the safety of the, it was sort of time to move beyond kindergarten. And as safe and as exquisite a space as that was, I could feel my need to to stretch a little bit, to move beyond my comfort zone, what had become my comfort zone.
Sure.
And then a friend of mine who heard that, and again, I so believe in synchronicity and the magic of the universe, said, there's this thing called the Fringe Festival happening in June, and I thought of you. And so I hadn't thought of, how it was going to happen. The whole thing felt kind of daunting, but then all of a sudden, this opportunity, and the Fringe is a bunch of different shows, so that sense that I wouldn't be doing it alone,
Sure.
that there was an organization with things worked out, and I just sort of had to slip into a slot. And then it was just a matter of, what a lot of it was written in the pieces that I had been creating.
Okay.
And then I found a wonderful director, and then new pieces started showing up, and I actually finished the first draft just last week.
Wow, yay.
That was very exciting. And I realized that there's a little bit of a delay with, our conversation and when it will actually air. But, and so now there are I play 5 different women, which right there is an adventure.
In a one-woman show, so it's just you
on the stage. In a one-woman show,
yeah.
Yep. And because what I realized was that I really wanted to be able to have more than just one voice. This grieving is such different. There's so many layers to it.
Sure.
And I found myself calling forth, conversations I'd been having with other widows, as well as voices that were just showing up in the journaling.
Sure.
So bit by bit, these monologues have started showing up, and we've got a flow to the show now, and what feels like a little bit of an arc, so you meet the women earlier in their process, and then some of them you hear from again, some of them you don't, and the thing I end it with, not that it's a giveaway, is that it's not as though there's a happy ending. It's not a Hallmark movie. But there is the sense that things are better than they were before, and I'm not so desperate anymore. That there's hope, and there is a future.
Yeah.
Where in those first few months, that seemed so impossible.
Well, it's one day at a time, one step after the next. But it's really exciting to have a one-woman show in Los Angeles, to be able to share this really profound notion that we have many sides to ourselves, many versions of who we are, all within one person. Right. It's a wonderful and brilliant idea that maybe we don't contemplate very often, but it's so true. It's, and it sort of gives permission to those encountering this show to be all the sides of yourself and not have to just limit your definition, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So cool.
And I think we struggle with that a lot, this feeling that we are, and mothers, to a whole other degree,
Sure.
that you're a mom, but you're also working, but you're also a wife, and you're also, and sometimes we feel schizophrenic with it. So it's a huge question of how do we feel integrated with all these various aspects of ourselves and not feel torn apart by it instead.
Absolutely. Now, before our conversation comes to an end, I want to talk a little bit about your landscape work because, I don't know how this weaves into what we're talking about. And before we end this episode, we'll give all the great information about how to go see your show and find out more about it. But you have a business called Poetic Plantings, which is a lovely title, and it's landscape design. And, you've said a few things about it that really struck me, that you're creating gardens that nourish both spirit and the earth. And that also you're really focused on, advocating for sustainable practices in this era of such devastating climate change. So can you just share a little bit about how you stumbled onto this part of yourself and your career and what you're doing, in the earth, what kind of work you do?
Yeah. So it's crazy because I stumbled upon it in my writing. Just goes to show. And yeah, it was working with a friend, and we were writing, and we had these prompts. And the prompt was, I eat dirt.
Ah, love it.
And off I went on a piece about just how vital that connection to the earth was to me.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of it, it was my friend who said, maybe there's something in there you need to take a closer look at.
Uh-huh.
And so it was, I had no idea there was such a career that was even out there. But again, one thing led to another, and I discovered that I could indeed be working with the earth much more intimately than I had realized was possible.
Sure.
So, yeah, I actually went back to school, got a degree in landscape architecture.
Wow.
And then back in 2009, connected with an organization that was really focused on the sustainability aspect.
Okay.
And that there was more to it than just creating pretty gardens, which is what most people think, or certainly, not so long ago, that was what we thought about.
Sure.
But, working with them and studying with them, realizing that it is also a huge opportunity for our individual gardens to actually serve to benefit the health of the planet. Okay. And that idea that, work local, affect global, is that if each one of us could take these steps to cut back on the toxins that we put into our gardens,
sure.
Focus on creating life in the soil. For us, especially out here in the Southwest, where water is such an issue,
sure.
Capture rainwater, create opportunities for biodiversity, for wildlife habitat. All of those things can be done in a space as small as 100 square feet.
Sure.
You're going to get I will get on my soapbox here.
Yeah. Well, it's just such an important prescient issue because we're facing really drastic changes in the planet.
Yep.
And, you're somebody who's empowered to do something about it. But I think it's really important, this advocacy piece, because having a voice like you do and a platform, I know this show isn't necessarily speaking to this issue, but you can bring them together for the betterment of the community and really empower people like me who I don't even know where to start when it comes to helping the planet. It's a daunting task. And so I really commend you on that. I think it's important to put your communication skills, your poetry, in partnership with the work with the earth so that you really can touch others and help to create a movement of positive change. I mean, that's what needs to happen. Well, I hate to cut us short, but we do have to bring this episode to a close. So I have two last questions for you. The first one is, on this show, we talk about how people make meaning and find purpose. And I know in your pre-show conversations, you were talking about how, you don't just sort of dictate your purpose, you stumble into it. And so I wonder if you have any advice for our listeners about, how they find their way or how they come to that profound definition of self to keep them going. What advice might you have for them?
Right. I think the stumbling into is pretty accurate. I think I actually heard the idea that instead of purpose, we used the word dharma, which somehow there was something really freeing about that shift. And the dharma being more about the journey, whereas the purpose feels more like the destination.
Yeah, that's true.
And so when I look at how I have somehow gotten here, it has very much felt like I just kept taking the next step. And that being said, the next step that felt like it resonated, like it made me shiver, or it might have terrified me. And again, I keep coming back to the journaling because that's where I keep getting the insights for what, and sometimes the page is literally, I just don't know what's next. I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next. And then sure enough, I will wake up one morning and it'll be, oh, you're going to, blankety blank, blank, blank. And it will feel unforced and completely organic. And it might be a terrifying step, but it feels true. And so that has been my guide. And we all find, our own way. But yeah, I think those two elements of that quiet space to hear yourself, and then maybe the shift in perspective.
Sure.
Not the destination, but the journey.
I love that. So, as we close, I wonder if you can share with our listeners how they can connect with you and your show.
Oh, thank you. So there's two ways. The show is part of the Hollywood Fringe Festival, so it would specifically be listed on that. And then I've just created a new website called MarianneBecoming.com. And that has information about the show as well as all of the process and the journey that I have traveled to get here. So those two are probably best.
I hope our listeners will get on board and come see you at the Fringe Festival in Los Angeles. And if you can't, because like me, you're very far away, Marianne has a beautiful email that comes out every month, and I find such inspiration and connection in it. So Marianne Simon, thank you so much for being a part of the Make Meaning podcast.
Oh, thank you, Lynne. It is such a pleasure, to have reconnected with you and to have this conversation today.
Absolutely. Good luck, and I look forward to hearing more wonderful things.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynne Galadner, and I've really enjoyed being here with you today. You can find the Make Meaning podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and I'd love it if you'd share our great conversations with all your people so we can add meaning wherever we go and whatever we do.